is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. And you know what day it is. It's Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Hump Day! And if it's Wednesday, you know that means Washington Football Weekly. And I got my guy right here. You know who it is. From steamy South Carolina, in the place that's about to lose to North Carolina, week 1 of the college football season next year, Will Kramer.
What's going on, man?
What up, Will?
It's Wednesday. It's a good day. 70-degree day here. I went golfing, so you can call it hot and steamy. I'll take it right now.
Yes. Must be nice. Hey, I got to introduce my other guy because he lives near me, and our weather ain't that bad either. It's not that bad either. Hey, you know who it is. Our guy and definite return guest, Mr. Jack Neidermeyer. What up, Jack?
Thanks for having me on, fellas. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Yes, sir.
It's a while. Well, we're happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Glad you're back here to talk some football.
Yeah. And Sean, what I have to do, let you know, is Jack and I have some side conversations, usually Friday when I'm driving home from work.
Mm-hmm.
And he stays, deep diving into our Commanders, but he's got contrarian thoughts. And so that's what I'm kind of excited about.
Someone's got to keep you grounded. Someone's got to keep you grounded here. Otherwise,
he does. He thinks we are a little too
every year. Super Bowl every single second. Yeah.
So on one side, we're Super Bowl every year, and then you're like top 5 draft pick every year. So it's
we don't have the top 5 draft pick to get to the point to make the Super Bowl.
He's disappointed because we won too many games.
Stuck in mediocrity, stuck in the 12 to 18th pick every year.
Yep. Right around that level. Around that level. So look, ladies and gentlemen, we are so glad you are here joining us. Anthony, Scott, appreciate you guys hopping in here. We're here to talk football. Yes, our season is over. The offseason is upon us. However, the actual NFL season has one more game left this Sunday, the Super Bowl between our division foe, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Kansas City Chiefs. And real quick, Jack, since I have you here, you have any thoughts on this game? Any who you think's gonna win?
I can't talk too loud because my wife's from Kansas City. So fly, Eagles, fly. Let's go. Well, I love Jalen Hurts. I think they can do it.
Let's go.
But I can't talk about it anymore, right?
I get it. It's funny because
go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say because Kat asked me, she was like, "Well, who you root for?" And I said, "We beat the Eagles, so I guess I don't know."
By default, we'll be the real champs. If the Eagles win, we beat the champs
in their home stadium.
We did.
That's right.
We did.
If that makes people sleep better at night, sure.
We need that kind of moral victory. We need that.
Right.
That's right.
That's all we got. That's all we got.
So hey, absolutely. Yes, we will. Hey, hopefully you guys will all be tuning into that and tune in exactly a year from now when another team will be gracing your TV screens, baby, led by that great Sam Howell. Let's get it. Let's go. We got to get into this. As you know, it's February, so it is Black History Month. Last week, we talked about Bobby Mitchell, who came to us from the Cleveland Browns and was a great running back turned wide receiver. This one, seeing as it is Super Bowl week, we got to talk about our guy, Doug Williams. January 31st, 1988, Doug Williams came in to start the playoffs. It replaced Jay Schrader, who was a starter, led the team past the Bears, past the Minnesota Vikings, get to the Super Bowl, went down 10-0. And then, ladies and gentlemen, for 15 minutes, everything stood still. And the heavens opened up. 18 plays, 35 points later, Doug Williams cemented himself in history. Even has us still talking about a little-known guy named Timmy Smith, who holds the rushing record for 204 yards in a Super Bowl. Absolutely destroyed the Denver Broncos in that game. Unfortunately, nothing really came of the career after that for Doug, but he is back in our front office, which is absolutely amazing. guys, I know I've talked to you about it. Jack, do you have any memories from this game, or anything on this time? Highlights from the past.
Honestly, nah. My earliest Washington or Redskins, Redskins memory is '92 when my parents brought me in to go watch when they clinched it against the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
That was my earliest memory. Otherwise, my dad collected Sports Illustrated. I was aware of the team and who they were and everything along those lines. But no, I wish I had a better memory of those historic teams. But especially if only I'd known it was going to be so long until we get to get back to that point again. So time will tell. But no, all respect to Doug. I think he's doing his best in the front office there, and he's been dealt a pretty bad hand when it comes to management and upper management, that is. So I think he's done the best he can, but can't take away that legacy from him. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In a game, in a quarter that will absolutely live in history as one of the best and probably one of the best offensive outputs in a single game, and much less a Super Bowl. So shout out to Doug Williams. Shout out to that game, Super Bowl 22, 1988. Seems like so long ago.
You guys remember that? You're like 5 years old.
Hey, my dad used to record every from Super Bowl 20 to about Super Bowl 34.
Okay. So you're watching on the replays, because I was going to say back then, on the VHS.
My mom was big into it. I remember that is the oldest memory I have, because she's always used to say Bronco Busters. Apparently, that's what we were yelling during the game.
Gotcha.
So it was a big deal at our house, but yeah, it still was like, I don't really remember. It's what I got from the VHS tape.
My dad used to throw me up and down every time they used to score a touchdown. That's why I'm all messed up. But yeah, you got that shaking baby syndrome. But yeah, that's awesome, man. You gotta see if they still have those.
Oh yeah, Scott says the Rams are still the champions for 4 more days. Hey Scott, hey,
you're
right there with us. What is going on? That is our Black History fact. We got to get in here. We got to move on. It is the off season. So as you know, recently the Senior Bowl went down. We've been following a couple players, following the game. Some of our coaches were down there. Always good to see. But it's happened. We've seen the practice. We've seen who stood out. Will, I'm going to come to you first. What are some of your thoughts from after the game? Any players? What are some of the things you're thinking, man?
Yeah. So as we talked about last week, this is kind of a big deal for us because we draft a lot of the guys that we draft come from the Senior Bowl practices. That's where they really saw Brian Robinson last year and Fedarian Mathis, and so it's important that our scouts are paying attention. And I saw on this one in particular our scout line, which is important, talking, in our own chats about how important it is to improve that and just kind of taking a look. Plus, we've had our coaches, some of our assistants have been right in there. Ryan Kerrigan was coaching the defensive linemen. Jennifer King was coaching the running backs. What I saw, no surprise, was that a couple of the offensive linemen that were going in shined a whole lot. To the point where now you may be looking at some first-round picks for some guys, like a first-round pick out of the for a center out of Minnesota by the name of John Michael Schmitz. They said he had a phenomenal Senior Bowl week. A guard has already been mocked to us. The guy from Florida, Osiris Torrance. I think it was an ESPN mock draft that they went with him. There was a dude from North Dakota State, another guard tackle named Cody Mock. He's that's my boy. That's the type of guy. I sent you the picture, Sean, and Sean's like, he had teeth missing. Sean's like, that's a hog right there. That's who we want. So it was, there were some names there that were, that shined. A couple tackles as well. Was the guy from Tennessee, Taylor, the Ohio State guy, DeJuan Jones, and Syracuse's tackle.
That's what I was going to bring up, dude.
Big guy.
6'8", 350, something like
huge
that.
Huge guy.
Big boy.
He did so well that after one day of practice, he mysteriously had a headache and went home for the day. And so it basically, essentially, he proved himself really well. And then I think there was a tackle, Matthew Bergeron, as well, that did real well. So those are some like the offensive linemen, which, Jack, you and I have been talking a lot about how important it is for us to improve our offensive line. Were there any other names that stood out to you? What did you hear?
I'm surprised you didn't bring up your boy Jalen Duncan, tackle out of Maryland.
I know. I talked a lot right there.
So again, like we've talked about before, this is a draft that's going to be heavy on offensive line and corner, and it seems like there was a lot of guys shining in that regard. So I think we're in a good spot with that first round pick, not to potentially have to trade back and really fill one of our needs. So I was keeping track of that. Like I know tight end's not necessarily a huge need, but the guy Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State looked pretty solid. Big dude, like 6'5", 6'6", 255 pounds. Like somebody that we can keep our eye on. Especially, I'm hoping Logan Thomas bounces back this year, but we'll see. Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green, another big defensive tackle. He could potentially put up the middle if Daron Payne ends up walking. Let's see here. Yeah, so Dwan Jones.
Who else stood out to you on offense?
Oh, that's a good question.
Was there anybody else on offense? I think you bring up a great point about Luke Musgrave, and I'll let you say anyone else. Otherwise, and then I've got a thought about the tight end position.
I saw them mentioning Jake Haener a lot as well out of Fresno State. So another potential later round pick that they could use to get a quarterback to back up Sam Howell, which is something they need. I didn't keep a lot of tabs on wide receiver or running back, since I think we're kind of set on those positions coming up. But just looking for potentially one of those quarterbacks falling out of the first round. Maybe we can pick him up the second, third round, like we kind of did with Sam Howell. Like you just don't know with how the draft's going to fall. So
now don't spoil the later segments of how to improve the quarterback part.
Yeah,
but you brought up a good part. Two things you brought up there that I really liked was you mentioned the tight end, and I was listening to a pod by John Kime last week, and he was talking about how we had such poor production from the tight ends. Is now a time to cut Logan Thomas so that you can and then draft a tight end early enough where you get some much better production, because they like Armani Rogers, they like Cole Turner, who showed us nothing. I don't know. I think it's too early to cut Logan Thomas. I just think there's two players that they're too raw behind him right now. So I don't know if I saw Luke Musgrave shining, but I don't know if I like that strategy that was brought up.
He doesn't have the same ceiling that Thomas does. So, like you can't expect those guys to step up. Like you're not going to get the Logan Thomas that you had 2 years ago, where he was close to leading the team in receptions. Like it's just. Right. You're not going to be able to fill that. The guy's coming off a major knee injury. So, I'm really hoping that, he was just kind of playing a little bit dinged up last year. And then with the full off season, the full year to recover, you might see the guy that you had 2 years ago.
Right.
So,
right. It's a good point. Yeah. Sean, was there anyone on offense that stood out to you at the Senior Bowl?
So I agree. I looked at, saw Jake Haener. Just like he was talking about, put up some numbers. Obviously, since you shouted out your boy from Shepherd, I kept an eye on him, and I saw the interception he threw.
He did.
Look, he got in the action. Shout out to the guy. Honestly, in my opinion, look, I went to obviously the position I played in high school, my favorite position, the running back position. And one of the guys that I saw that I think took a real hit because he was out for a good portion of the year, Chris Rodriguez Jr. He could be a nice little third back. We don't know what's going to happen with Gibbs, so we want to keep him, but he's been injured in the fumbling issues. But then you got Patterson and you got Jonathan Williams, who showed up later in the season, but they're not going to be in the 1 or 2. So if we could potentially move on and bring in a guy like that, then another guy on running back is Evan Hall out of Northwestern, who first 2 or 3 plays just blew it out the water. And I'm looking at this from not only a running back perspective, but also a potential kick return perspective. Sure. What's his name? Mr. Steal Your Girl's best friend, Dax Milne. He's not going to give us any kind of threat on return. And if we don't have Gibson in there, I mean, basically wherever Dax Milne catches it is where it's going to be down. He's going to within a 5-yard radius. So
Yeah.
let's get in a guy like Rodriguez. And I don't know Rodriguez plays return, but Evan Hall has that kind of small. He's small package. We had that speed to him. You got guys like Jalen Reed, shout out Michigan State, who's a smaller guy, but it's like a Jahan Dotson, who's very quick. He's very explosive. So I'm thinking about some of those other areas that, maybe the X factor. We know about the offense, and you were talking about Cody Mock. That's my guy. When I looked at his picture with the two missing teeth, I was like, oh, he loves the slop. He just get in there. You know what I mean? So honestly, in my opinion, I wanted to look for some other little pieces that we could potentially use. But I also did look at quarterback because you're absolutely right. Like, we know Sam Howell is the guy right now. But at the same time, what kind of guy is that? Do we have Taylor? Will we have him? Not to get too far into what we're going to talk about. But we might need to pick somebody up. And we saw Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, had a great year. Mind you, he had a lot of talent around him. But I honestly, I don't think we need to be out of the quarterback search necessarily. We need to make sure that we have guys in there that can continue to compete, and we'll see from there. So those are my perspective. That was more on the outside, more of the position, outside position groups, as opposed to maybe the O-line or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted us to break it down offense and defense, because this will give me a chance to highlight someone that I pointed out weeks ago for the record. I read, because as we're going to talk about, the biggest offseason, news for the Commanders is what to do with Daron Payne. And I wanted to see in the Senior Bowl what happened with Wisconsin's defensive tackle, Keanu Benton. And I saw multiple reports that he was absolutely unstoppable out there. Which I was, thrilled to hear, just as a potential replacement. Like if we need to draft, Daron Payne's replacement or someone to kind of groom in that position. The other one I heard on defense was, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not going to try right now. He's from Northwestern. He's a defensive lineman. And they talk about, you know what I'm talking about?
Initials are AA. Yeah,
yes,
I know you're talking
exactly.
About.
And they said, he still needs to add some weight, but as a pass rusher, this last week, he was very tough for and as we mentioned, we've got some guys who could be first and second round picks that were having trouble against him out there. So those were two things we're kind of talking about, when we're looking at roster management and what to do with Daron Payne, and, can you afford to franchise tag or have high costs at the same position for two players. Smart teams would be building through the draft. So that's kind of what I was looking for.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
The other one that I read about that absolutely made me go, I wonder when he's going to get picked, because this is exactly what I'm looking for. He's a linebacker out of Washington State by the name of Dayon Henley. And he's a wide receiver that converted to linebacker, so he's fast. And they said he could keep up with all the running backs, all the tight ends. He could go sideline to sideline. And if you think about it, we need to be improving our linebacker core and our special teams. What a better player with all that speed to pair right next to Jamin, and really, really cover the field at that second level.
Still have him playing off ball, something along those lines.
Exactly.
Move Jamin in the middle. Okay.
Exactly. So I saw that guy. Like I'm curious after the Senior Bowl where these guys start getting mocked. Do they start, rising up the boards, or are they kind of staying further back? Was there anyone else on defense? I think you started to. I don't know if I cut you off or not on it. That anyone else on defense that stood out to you?
There's just the normal guys like Jack Campbell out of Iowa, another big middle linebacker. I forget what award he was awarded this year, but I'm surprised that he's that far down the list of top inside linebackers.
Yeah.
A lot of different corners. Again, like the cornerback depth is great this year for the draft. So I think maybe any guys dropping out of the first or second round, you could really get some value there. But just to name a few, we got let's see here, Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State, Garrett Williams out of Syracuse, maybe DJ Turner out of Michigan for you, something like that. There's a few guys that have good size that could play both both zone and man, depending on what we're looking to run next year. So I didn't catch too much of it. I was too busy watching the Pro Bowl. But Watch my boy Kirk in the Pro Bowl, man.
Oh gosh, I can't say that I saw a single bit. I saw clips afterwards, but I didn't. How was the? Well, we'll get to the Pro Bowl in a second. We'll stay on topic here. I love how you said something about cornerbacks, because that's exactly what I was looking at too. Is like, okay, what corners shined here? One of the ones that you mentioned, size. It's a local guy, your dad's alma mater. Anthony Johnson from the University of Virginia.
Yeah, 6'2". Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, Sean and I always talk about it. I look at all these corners with size that are that are 6 foot, 6'2", 200 pounds. I just feel like that's the only way to compete in today's game is to match up these bigger receivers. So I love the Legion of Boom that Seattle had built.
Absolutely.
I saw another guy. Now he's been injured, but he's from Iowa. His name is Riley Moss, but they said he can play multiple cornerback positions. He can go inside, he can go outside, he can play zone, he can play man. Because I think that's going to be really important with the versatility that Jack Del Rio likes to do. The other one, I'm sorry that Sean's not here right now to hear me say this, but one of my guys here from DBU at South Carolina, Darius Rush, was a name that played really well. Excuse me. Now, I will say, I was a little bit surprised. I was happy for him, obviously, that he performed well, but I was a little bit surprised that he did so well there, because I can't say I saw a whole lot on the field, while watching games this year. But the NFL is a different ball game, so maybe he's better suited to that.
Different speed, different work. Like, who knows? Like, he could need a different coaching aspect or something along those lines to take that next step. So
exactly,
yeah, it's really tough to read these guys completely. Like, especially off a couple games, and then 3 years in college plus the Senior Bowl.
Right.
That's why you see a lot of undrafted free agents like hit it big. You just don't know. They just have to make it through their rookie contract, and then got a lot of guys that are coming up right now that I think are going to get paid this year. So
absolutely. So you mentioned you watched the Pro Bowl. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on it, because like I said, I did not follow it.
Oh man. Well, they finally got rid of the actual game, and so now it's just like a bunch of skills challenges and everything along those lines. It's it's a little bit more fun, a little bit more light. I got to see what was it? Devontae Adams tried to pitch the ball to Tyreek Hill, and he just I forget who crushed him in the end zone or something like that. But it's a pretty entertaining game. Like just watching the skills challenges. I used to love like the old school Pro Bowl where they get like all the the quarterbacks for like the long pass contest,
yes.
like the obstacle course, like all that stuff. So I feel like they're finally going back to their roots there. So yeah, it's less serious, because again they try to make it a game that nobody cares about. Like then they try to make it like so actually see if these guys will try, but no one gets to get hurt. So it's just like it's really just kind of a joke. And so yeah, but the way they branched it out, like I liked it a lot. And unfortunately, there was a lot of RG3, so he was covering it. A lot of feedback from him. So that was my only
is it
complaint about
that he was. Yeah.
But he did interview Kirk at the end.
I got you. Well, how ironic was it? And sorry, my internet's kind of having some problems.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. What?
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. It was the fact that how ironic was it that RG3 is interviewing Kirk Cousins, who he wanted to prevent from getting on the field, the whole time with the Redskins. And here he is. Kirk's still going, making the Pro Bowl, and RG3 is interviewing him as a member of the media these days.
He does a decent job. Like, I think he's a little bit full of himself, like he has always been, I think. But he does a decent job. He's an intelligent guy. Like he asked the right questions, and then he took some jabs at Kirk. And there's a couple funny, but of course, like the video of Kirk wearing the chains on the plane back from going back to Minnesota. You got what's that? That's one video of Kirk out grilling out in this barbecue with some weird looking steaks and stuff like that. So, it's fine. And of course, they actually had him on the junks a couple RG3. They have him on there I think every week now. And so he was just talking it up about how it's all professional now and they're all buds and blah 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 blah. But for the most part, it's just like you said, very, very ironic to see how it's kind of happened here. But
right. It looks like we got Nicole chiming in a little bit, saying it seemed like the players enjoyed it, and she's right. I think I did see a lot of stuff where the players were having some fun. to what you said, if you can go back to some of the stuff let them show off some of their skills. Not every position can do things, but like you said, if you do certain things like the quarterback throws, the accuracy throws, like that's the type of thing to let these guys show what they can do. I even saw a little bit in the clips from the flag football game where like you saw how fast these guys are, so that's kind of fun. But you mentioned it. It's an award. It's a game activity that happens at the end of the season, right before offseason. So there's no incentive to try, because the last thing you want to do is get hurt before your offseason, and that becomes your offseason.
Absolutely. I'm thinking for next year, though, maybe they need to do like an eating contest for like the defensive tackles and like offensive linemen or something like that. Maybe branch it out a little bit more just outside of like, football skills or something. So, they could probably, spice it up a little bit, but we'll see. I actually I heard that there was like close to like 55,000 people there for it as well, I thought was pretty crazy. Yeah, I can't remember like the last Pro Bowls if anyone was actually there at all. So yeah, interesting fact. Yeah.
Well, here you go. So Anthony was watching it a little bit too. He apparently, I guess it was a long snapping challenge. I don't know. I didn't get.
I didn't see that portion of it.
If that's the case, that's a cool idea. I mean, honestly, like your idea is a little bit off the wall, but that's exactly what they need to be doing. They need to make it fun. They need to make it fan friendly, family friendly for the players. Like, why do I want to go to this? So obviously they seem to be on the right track here.
Agreed. Yep.
All right, so as you can see, I'm going to be taking the reins here. Sean's going to be joining us in and out, so maybe a little bit choppy here as I try to manage this. I'm even going to try the little. Here we go. Let me see if I can get this to work. Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is.
I got this going. It's not too bad to have these controls.
Oh, yeah. Who needs Sean? You got it, man.
All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to move on to our next segment. It's just giving an update on the offensive coordinator search. This was since the last time we spoke on Wednesday, there really hasn't been a whole lot except for today. And there was some talk today. So Ron Rivera spoke with the media. Yesterday, Eric Bieniemy was there as a member of the Chiefs organization. And what got people talking on, you're a big Grant and Danny fan. You like to listen to, the Junkies and B. Mitch and Finley, as I do too. Is Eric Bieniemy made a comment saying, well, right now, because he got asked, are you thinking about your, job opportunities? And he said, right now, I just need to be where my feet are. And that's like a Ron Rivera-ism. That's the thing that he says.
That's an old man saying right there.
So, right. So it got, the reporters going, I've heard that before. I know where that came from. And then Ron said today that he thinks they're going to get a chance to talk with Eric, and it's his inclination that Eric Bieniemy would like to work with a defensive-minded head coach.
Interesting.
If he were to be a coordinator. So hearing that, what are your thoughts?
I'm all about it. Like I beyond him, like being the OC of the Chiefs, and I know like he's done Mahomes and all those guys have great things to say about him. It's just he's been behind the Reed's shadow for so long. I've heard that he's got it down to two teams. It's the Ravens and the Commanders supposedly. Like I know he's got that connection with Jim Harbaugh up in Baltimore. So I don't know. We'll see what ultimately happens from it. But
would you like it if he were to be named the offensive coordinator?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's one of those guys that could come in as the OC. They run a good offense next year, and then if the new ownership cleans house, like potentially he could be our new head coach. So you don't know. Yeah, absolutely.
Are you at all concerned that he's never called plays for the Chiefs? That Andy Reid still handles that? Because look at what happened in Chicago with Matt Nagy.
I know. No, you're absolutely right there. It's tough to say. I think it's a different type of offense in a sense, but like I'm not 100% sure. Like in this sense, like they want to be a more run heavy offense, but I think that's completely against what Andy Reid calls up there in KC. So I don't know if it's a combination of like Andy conferring with him at all, and then like Andy just still calls the plays. Like I do not know his involvement with the offense.
Right.
So if he's more in depth of coming up with schemes and coming up with game plans throughout the day, but not making the per call basis, I'm fine with that. I think he can come in here and script up some good stuff. So give the guy a chance. Absolutely. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
You said it. If he's involved in the game plan, but just not in the actual play calls. how is he any different than a quarterbacks coach that gets promoted, or a passing game coordinator that gets promoted? Like, that's exactly the hierarchy that these guys go to, because he's getting destroyed, over the last couple of years. The fact that he can't get a head coaching job, or the fact that he's not calling plays. And it's like, you're right. Like, there's reasons to be slightly concerned about it. But then at the same time, it's like, well, if he's around a good mind in Andy Reid and seeing how that works, to me, it's also like, he took a rookie quarterback. He's a part of a coaching staff that took a rookie quarterback and developed an offense that made it friendly for a rookie quarterback, which is the exact situation that we are likely going into next season with Sam Howell. So it's like, if he knows how to do this, and the only thing he hasn't had a chance to do is actually be the guy on first down, second down, third down, who decides what play we're doing. I'm with you. I'm kind of like, of all the guys that have emerged as candidates here, I'm kind of like, we don't know what he's like from a quarterback development, but I think it lines up to be a pretty good opportunity.
Absolutely. The only thing that concerns me is that over the last, I think it was 2 or 3 years, he has interviewed with 17 different teams.
Yes.
And that's, clearly, if none of them have given him a chance at this point, he must be doing something wrong. Maybe, I said, the part of the interview process, I don't know. So that's the only thing I'm a little bit skeptical about, is that you've interviewed with, over half the league, and no one else has been willing to give you a chance.
Exactly. Well, the best part about that, though, is it seems like in the next week, this is finally coming to a head. We've been talking about this for over a month now, that Scott Turner's been, let go, and who are they going to hire? They've been interviewing, 1 or 2 candidates every week. So it's been a very drawn out process. So luckily, we're going to get some resolution here, and we'll have something to kind of talk about and either look forward to in the offseason, or be like, why did we promote our quarterbacks coach? Why are we doing this, guy? So things should be wrapping up here.
And the thing I keep on going towards is that, honestly, I think next year is going to be a transitional year anyway. So new ownership, potentially, the coaching staff might get blown out anyway. So why not take a chance? Why not see what the guy's got? So at that point, you're playing with house money.
Exactly.
You're going to hit the reset button, potentially regardless. So
exactly. Which talking about that, why not take a chance is something I can't wait when we start talking about how do we improve the roster in just a few minutes, because I've got some thoughts on what is Ron going to do as a potential lame duck coach. But we're going to move on to our next segment here. I'll get this going here. Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is.
All right. The next segment we're going to talk about is exactly what happened today. So this was a chance for Ron Rivera to speak with some of the media. He made a comment that happened late this afternoon, so it's almost like breaking news here, that he brought up the point of not extending Chase Young's 5th-year option. Right now, Chase Young is going into year 4. We obviously all know about the injury history that he's had, that massive, knee injury that's really taken a long time for him to recover. And so he's going into year 4. He was already having a down year in year 2 when it comes to production. Last year was a rehab year. So the team would have the ability to offer him the 5th-year option to pick him up. So you'd have him, for 2 more seasons. But in year 5, he would cost $17 million. And what Ron said was that there's a chance that they don't pick him up. So that therefore that would kind of motivate him to say, this is your chance to get paid, show out in year 4. And he said that this same situation that they did with Daron Payne. They did not extend Daron Payne last year. They said, you want to get paid? Show us. And he became a Pro Bowl player this year. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts hearing Ron talk like that?
I think he's got a history of doing this to people, just kind of just trying to make some subtle comments to the media, try to light a fire under you. It's just his kind of way of doing it. So honestly, I think it's probably a good move, because at this point in time, you don't know what you're getting with Chase. You might as well just go ahead and roll the dice with him at this point. You got a lot of guys that are coming up in free agency in the next couple years, and you got to see what you have. If you want to extend him, past that 5th-year option, or give him a long-term deal, go ahead and roll the dice. I don't know what the going price is at defensive end for franchise and past that point, but I'm assuming it's more than 23 mil, something along those lines. But yeah, I think he's on to something. I think Chase has got a full year to recover now, and next year is going to be his make or break year. He's got to show us what he's got.
Yeah. Well, and I think the way the fifth year option works is you get paid at whoever is. So the franchise tag works where they take the average between the highest paid player at the position and the fifth highest.
Yeah.
Find the average, that's the amount. So like Daron Payne is going to be $19 million this year. I thought that fifth year options like this would basically be the equivalent to whoever is the lowest, that the fifth highest at your position, which would be the $17 million for a defensive end potentially. That's kind of what I think as how it works. And so you're right. I mean, it's a lot of money to pay for someone who had only like 3 or 4 sacks in his second year. It's like you wouldn't pay someone if they weren't named Chase Young. That
do you know the dead cap number if they cut him? Like any
there
idea
wouldn't be. There would be no dead cap
that's
because
right.
It's his contract.
That's his contract
expiring.
at that point is expired.
My concern is, and we'll know here soon, is if you franchise Daron Payne, he would be an unrestricted free agent next year. Montez Sweat will be on his fifth year option next season. And then if you don't extend Chase Young, he would be on his fourth year and be done. So going into next offseason, you would automatically be choosing between Sweat and Young and potentially Daron Payne as well. But you also maybe look at saying, Ron may be saying, well, we're going to have to do that anyway. Because just like we're talking about with Daron Payne, if the team knows there's no way they can pay both Sweat and Chase Young, it's kind of like, well, we're just getting to that decision 1 year earlier. Because if you pick up Chase Young's option, you may be telling Montez Sweat we can't afford to pay you.
Exactly. You're sending that message to him, but we're not serious about paying you long term.
Exactly.
And he's definitely I think he's provided enough at this point to deserve that longer term contract. But I just don't know what that's going to cost and the way the roster is going to look down the road because of that. But
right.
Yeah, like I think you got to let him play it. Just let him play it out. Watch him go ahead and become that second overall pick again, like he was a couple of years ago. Become the defensive rookie of the year. That type of guy. Like he's got it, but
right.
I'm just afraid with that type of massive knee injury, he's just never going to be the same. So it's just you got to see what you got. But maybe Ron's onto something with just motivating him in that way that he doesn't have that extra year to fall back on. And it drives me nuts when they don't extend these guys and then they have their contract year and they blow up and then you have to pay them. But it's the business. Then I'm always concerned after that they're going to come back and just what's to motivate me to play any better now because I'm under contract for the next 3 years getting paid top dollar. So it's
exactly. It's kind of like the whole argument right now with Daron Payne. It's like you've never been this pass rush force, and then you just were. You had 11.5 sacks, but you haven't been that guy in the past. But it's because you knew you were going to get paid at the end of this year. That but we'll get to the Daron Payne talk.
You have no
it's a
control
legitimate argument.
It is. There's no control over that aspect of it. So I might do the same thing for myself as well. I wish my work would do that for me, but
Yeah, I hear you. Hold on, sorry. I said about my internet was cutting in and out there. Could you repeat?
You got that South Carolina DSL internet, man.
Well, AT&T was right outside today doing something, and now look at this. I've never had any problems until all of a sudden tonight, and their truck was out all day.
Yeah. You something on the side there?
No. I do think it's dicey. I certainly will say that, though, when it comes to Chase Young. It's like, I get it from a team of roster construction where you're basically saying, okay, Sweat, Young, we're signing one of you two. Figure it out. Better year gets it. But it's also like, this is a guy we drafted that could potentially be a generational talent, and we're sitting here saying we're almost kind of alienating him to say, well, you better play well, otherwise you're gone. So it's tough.
It's a tough position, absolutely. And I think honestly, a lot of it's going to be once they bring new ownership in here. So like they'll probably make the final say, and a lot of it will depend on what type of picks we have in the next couple of years. It's our next year, so we'll see. Right. We'll see what happens. But just don't pick up the fifth year option. Let them play it out. See what happens.
So you're in support of it.
I am. Yeah.
On the record. Okay. Good deal. Yep. All right, we're going to take one more break before we dive into how we would improve our beloved Commanders roster. Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is.
All right. We appreciate those that are watching us. Appreciate those that are catch it later on YouTube. Sean always posts them very well. Catch us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We always appreciate that. You can always like and subscribe, and we love the comments, either when they're post show and kind of giving us some ideas or some thoughts on what we say. We love it. We'll respond to you, and so we love to hear your thoughts on some of the things that we say. Here's the bulk of our show that I've been excited about for, I don't know, at least like 5 or 6 days. And Sean and I have been very, very slowly bringing up this, roster evaluation, taking a look at the offseason, partly because it's been January and free agency doesn't hit until March. So we didn't want to, just talk everything in the first week of, divisional round playoffs. But it's also because, as stuff starts to happen throughout the offseason, you start to have some your roster is going to take shape, kind of have an idea of what direction they should be going in. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk position by position, how we would improve that spot, or if we need to improve that spot. I'm sure there's a couple spots here, where we can be like, we're kind of set. Let's, don't need to pay a whole lot of attention to it. But then there's others that we need a major overhaul. Before I do that, I think we should start off with the most important decision of the offseason, and that is Daron Payne. Because I think the decision to be done with Daron Payne affects everything. So I'm going to let you start off with, talk to me about it. I kind of have an idea which way you're going, but all right, so you're Martin Mayhew, you're Ron Rivera. What are you doing with Daron Payne?
Like you've mentioned, it's going to probably cost $20 million to keep him, and that's over half. That's over half of our free agency money right there. Like, the salary cap right there. So it is our strength. Like, it's definitely our strength. But there's a guy that I keep forgetting about that, like, they got hurt in the middle of last year, and that's Mathis. Like, who knows what we have with that guy? Like, watch him come back and be able to fill that hole that Payne potentially left at a fraction of the cost. So I just think that at this point in time, again, we've just been stuck in mediocrity. Like, you see what we're going to get by having a good defensive line, but, having holes on other parts of the defense, having holes at the offensive line. Like, it's only going to get you so far. But, yeah, at this point, I don't think you can pull the trigger on that big of a contract.
Right.
Like you mentioned, maybe they can tag him and trade him, like do something to get some type of value back for him. It kills me every time that they do this, where they just have to let their best guys walk for nothing. But it's just, right. I don't know how else you're going to take the next step, but unless you're going to hit on some guys in free agency and have them produce at a higher level. But it's very, very hard for that to happen. At least
you said it on paper. The team did what they should do if you're making prudent roster construction decisions. The year before someone hits free agency, you draft a potential replacement and let them play. Now, I do think Mathis and John Ridgeway are a little bit different players than Allen and Payne. I don't think you're going to see as much of the pass rush ability from them. Yeah, they're more that big body, stuff. Yeah, so I think you got to, we got to keep into account that that's kind of what we're giving up. But I'm with you so we're going to have $32 million to play with in free agency. And that's not chump change. That's enough to make a couple different upgrades at certain positions.
Absolutely.
And if you franchise Payne, he's $19 million. Now, I don't know what you're really going to do for the offensive line and quarterback wise. It's going to really, help that. And so, if you extend him, you have a chance in that year one to have a smaller contract. But now you're paying 2 defensive tackles close to $80 to $100 million. I think it's too much money. I think the best option for us would be, and you would probably love this scenario, I mean, we all would be to franchise tag him and make a trade before the draft.
Absolutely.
And I think, you could be looking at, potentially getting a second round pick for him. Maybe if you have to take a third round pick, it's still better. It's better than losing him and getting a comp pick. So like we get a comp pick for Brandon Sheriff that we lost last year. But
You
those
said like
comp,
a third round pick
it's
potentially.
a third round pick, but it starts at the end of the third round. So
Yeah.
after all 32 teams pick, then they go through and award these comp picks. So I mean, you're talking like you're picking 35 to 40th of that round. Whereas if you trade Daron Payne with the team, you're picking much earlier in that round. And we don't have a third round pick this year. So to one of the guys in our chats, Kyle Yates' point, I said there was a lot of chatter yesterday from the Falcons. Cordell Patterson said, "Come on, Payne, come on to the ATL." I think he said, "Come to the 404." And Kyle said, Daron Payne's gonna sign with Atlanta. And I was like, "We'll trade him to you for a second." And he was like, "Let's be honest, you'll take a third." And it is true. I would, if that's what it takes. Even if it's like, if it's a third and a fifth, absolutely. Those are two spots we could take. So, now, the other thing I think also sort of while that the franchise tag may be an option is two reasons. One, it's going to set up the rest of your free agency. So how much dollars we have left. We'll kind of know what are we doing on quarterback wise? What are we doing on offensive line wise? So that'll kind of let the team know, just like they did with Carson Wentz last year by making the trade that they decided, okay, now here we got to figure out free agency now that we have this contract. But more importantly, you mentioned the sale of the team. If Dan Snyder is selling the team and they franchise tag Daron Payne, he's not paying him any money. Because a franchise tag, you get paid with your game checks. Daron Payne makes $19 million starting in week 1, all the way from September to January. Payne gets $19 million. That's going to be a heck of a fall for him. Yeah. However, if you sign him to a long-term extension, all the money that you guarantee. So like an example was he could get a 4-year deal, $80 million, 55 guaranteed. Dan Snyder would have to put $55 million into an escrow account.
Got it.
I don't think he's going to fork over any more money if he's selling the team.
They're not spending any money. They're not cutting any. They're not cutting any coaches. They're not gonna. He's not gonna pay out any contracts that he doesn't need to pay at this point.
Exactly. So I think the only option, really, if you want to get something of significant value for Payne, is to franchise him, which and kind of tell him we're doing this so that you're on our roster for 2023. But that gives us the flexibility to trade you away, to find a partner. And there are teams. The Colts and the Rams have come out to say that they want to improve their defensive line. So we know there's teams out there.
Line. Absolutely.
Exactly.
He's top 5 at this point. Like they were saying, the top 5 stopping the run. Like he's really stepped up his game there. But how about this? Like we'll go ahead and we'll franchise the tag and trade him, and then we'll bring back our boy Matt Ioannidis. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. That is a real option there, where is you could get someone like a Matt Ioannidis, that is less than $5 million, less than $6 or $7 million, to be a rotational piece, a part of it, who is a little bit more of that Jonathan Allen type, can pass rush, can also run protect, and be a part of rotation. It's exactly a great idea.
With free agency, you could basically sign 2 defensive tackles for what you're going to pay Payne and potentially get similar production. But it's tough to say, and you don't know if Payne's going to get paid and then just not want to play at that same level. So it's just he's had that one really good year. Otherwise, it's just been definitely first round pick worthy, but not top 3, top 4 defensive tackle, not Jonathan Allen level. So it's a tough one, and again, it's just Washington football all over again. Just potentially watching your best players walk away. So it's just it's hard,
as opposed to us grabbing everyone else's best players and bringing them to us and overpaying like we used to. Now we see them leave the building.
I know.
Right. All right. So we've got a consensus that and we're going to stay on defense, I guess, is kind of how we'll start this off. So on defensive line, we're going to let Payne's not going to be a part of our roster in 2023. Did you have any other ideas on defensive line? Anything to do with the ends?
Yeah. So with defensive line, like again, like there's decent guys in the draft. There's Matt Ioannidis, who caught my attention to bring in. I had my list up here of guys that I could potentially bring out, but from an end perspective, I was looking at our roster, and then so we have we're not not losing a ton of guys. Like we're losing
Mm-mm.
what was it, Fa Obata,
Yeah.
and then otherwise like him and that's it. Him and Payne are the only guys we're really losing from our line from in
Hmm.
free agency. So honestly, I don't think it's a huge need for us this year, and I'm
I
pretty
agree.
excited about that. So you could potentially
Right.
get some guy later round, maybe fifth, sixth, seventh round that you want to maybe take a flyer on and have him be part of a platoon or a rotation. So
Yeah.
pay Matt Ioannidis maybe 5.5, 6 million, or some guy, somebody around that level to to swap out for Payne, and then again, like you could then draft like an end or another defensive tackle, and I think you're looking pretty good. How about you?
I think you're right. Yeah, defensive line. I really didn't have a whole lot of activity there. I think there's an option, like you mentioned, a Matt Ioannidis type player, somebody who wouldn't cost a whole lot of money. Even like if you can get a Tim Settle type guy,
Yeah,
who's been
good
buried on
point.
a bench, and you're giving him more of a playing opportunity. Although I think we also have to recognize that we've got a Pro Bowler in Jonathan Allen. We've got two big bodies there, so there's not a whole lot of playing time there. So I think you probably would be looking at adding someone through the draft, someone that
Sure.
you can bring onto your team and develop, and then maybe that could be someone that you get someone that's a little more athletic, a little more in that Jonathan Allen type player style, and wherever from the third to the sixth round, someone that you kind of build up a little bit.
It's tough to say. And then you look at teams like the Eagles and a lot of the teams that were very successful defenses this year, and they load up on tackles and guys that can that can rush the passer up the middle. So
Yes.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard. It's what makes that Daron Payne decision so difficult because the game has changed. It used to be all about your ends and pass rushers on the outside, and
yeah,
now they're saying if we can push these guards and centers back in the quarterback's face,
yeah,
it
yeah,
makes
yeah,
life
yep.
more difficult.
Have the ends contained.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. All right, let's move on to linebacker. It's been a position that we all fans of the Commanders, were concerned about linebacker in 2022,
yeah.
and the team did nothing to improve it. And all fans were sitting here just bewildered, just like, well, how can we see this, but you guys do nothing? So what do you think we do at linebacker?
That in corner, and this blows my mind because Ron Rivera used to play linebacker. Jack
I
Del
know.
Rio, like I just don't get it how they don't recognize that. But um, I know Sean's not going to like this, but I don't think you resign Cole Holcomb. I think at this point you gotta kind of let him go. I know we're losing David Mayo and John Bostic, who I don't really care about. So
Right.
that's fine by me. But I've always liked this guy at Virginia Tech, and like I think that at this point in time, like you could probably there's a lot of good linebackers going up in free agency. So you guys like I'd love to get a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, like, bring him in here. They're saying like around like, 14, 15 mil a year,
It's a lot.
but it's a lot of money, but it's a real position of need. Like, I'd have an issue with you paying, Daron Payne a little bit more, but if you're bringing in like a true middle linebacker who can play coverage, like he had the best year of his career in coverage. I think he had like 2 picks. I forget how many pass breakups he had, but it's definitely double digits. So, it is I'd love to get a true middle linebacker in there that you can move, or you can keep, or I'm sorry, you can move Jamin Davis to the off ball, which I think he excels at. Um, yeah, or a couple other guys I was looking at are like T.J. Edwards, who again is one of those undrafted guys who's just blown up the last 3 years. So it's specifically last year where he's had the best career year. Like, but again, saying he'll probably get me 11, 12, 13 million a year, something along those lines. David Long out of Tennessee, like again, middle linebacker, but best career of his life, or I'm sorry, best year of his life coming out there. But and all these guys are in their mid 20s, so you can lock them up and get them in their prime. And so like I'm pretty excited for something like that. Another guy I was looking at is maybe like a Denzel Perryman, another depth guy you could get for maybe 4 mil, something along those lines. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I haven't really been paying much attention to the guys in from college, but I feel like we just keep going getting burned from like trying to draft these guys and see if they have an like immediate impact. And it's just maybe it's a harder position to learn. I'm sure it is, especially at the professional level with all the all the changes in the offenses, everything you got to keep your eye on. But I think to have a immediate impact on one of our biggest positions of need, I think you got to grab one of those premier free agents, or at least make a stab at it. How about you?
Yeah, I love the idea of Tremaine Edmonds, and just like you talked about, if you're swapping, not paying the money for Payne, but putting it at a different position of impact, I think it's a lot easier for fans to swallow if you're letting a Pro Bowler leave. And you're right. Now, I was not sure. I did not know if Edmonds called plays for the Bills. But
I
I
don't know.
think you might be right that he is a middle linebacker, and that's the big key on when it comes to linebackers. What are they going to do with Jamin Davis? Are they going to have him be the one that calls plays, or are they going to let him play off ball? And I kind of feel like he's better off ball and letting him use his athleticism. So you need to be looking for someone who can do that. I'm not out on Holcomb just yet because I think because of
Sure.
the injury, you can get him cheap, and he does have the ability at the beginning of the season. He was the play caller, but
He
I'm
was.
not
Yeah.
paying him top money. I'm paying him,
No,
injury. Like this is your 1 year deal to prove it to me potentially.
I wouldn't pay him
Um,
more than 6 or 7 mil a year.
that's
Absolutely.
even generous, but
That
you're
I think
right.
that's
Yeah,
generous. Yeah, you
yeah.
can't break the bank for him. But
Exactly. So I'm with you there. There's a couple guys that I've watched throughout the years that I've really liked. A guy in Cincinnati, Jermaine Pratt. He
mm,
is a middle linebacker. He can play all three downs too at middle linebacker. So he's someone that didn't sign a big contract with Cincinnati, an expensive one. So I would have my eye on him. I'd love the dude that came from Alabama a couple of years ago, Rashawn Evans.
yep.
He's with I think Atlanta is where he went from Tennessee to Atlanta.
Okay.
Tackling machine.
Mm,
So I've got my eye on him. You said it. TJ Edwards is a guy that I've liked for a long time, and they're both athletic. I thought about two other guys, the Eagles, Kaiser White. If they choose to let Jamin Davis be the Mike, White is a off-ball, speedy linebacker. So
hmm.
you'd have some two athletic guys there. But yeah, I think they need to do something in free agency at linebacker. And
Absolutely.
then I think that needs to be our starter. It needs to be Davis and a free agent linebacker. And then I think we need to draft somebody to
Sure.
groom to come in
Right.
here.
Sure.
At some point I was thinking, you mentioned Jack Campbell. It's like, oh, could he be a first round pick? Do you go? But it's like, I think you want to go someone in, second, third, fourth round that is someone you can develop. But most importantly, it's if either of those guys go down, we have depth. Because right now, Cole Holcomb went out, and like you said, you're throwing David Mayo out there. We had
David Mayo.
horrible depth.
You got Bostic in there. Like it's just like it's like Groundhog Day all over again. Like I don't get
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, it's just blows my mind a little bit, especially. But it is what it is with Ron. I've always been kind of questioned about his some of his personnel decisions, but it's easy to
Absolutely.
criticize him from my couch. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. All right, so moving on from linebacker, we're going to go defensive backs. We're going to lump corners and safeties into it just for the
Okay.
of time. Um, so I'll let you go here as well. What are your thoughts here? You mentioned last year you thought that we should improve our corners, and we didn't. So how are we going to improve them this year?
I, like I've been saying, like draft, like
Yeah,
offensive line, corner, big like a big draft class this year. So I honestly I think you should spend your first round pick on either a corner or offensive line, depending on who's available. But yeah, there's a bunch of guys that I like, coming out, like Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, like what was it, Witherspoon out of Illinois, I think it
yeah,
is. Like
yeah.
there's a lot of lengthy big corners that could potentially even move to safety at some point. Like they have the size, like to maybe play over the field. I don't know, but like so they got what, Kendall Fuller. I'm trying to think who else we got. You got St. Juice.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check the depth chart here.
David Johnson is a free agent.
Yeah, so yeah, you
Christian
got
Holmes is a corner from last year.
Danny Johnson up. Yeah, Kendall Fuller. I don't know who Tariq Castro Fields is, but that's fine. And yeah. Again, like I really feel like there's a lot of value in the draft this year that you could potentially draft in the first
Mm-hmm.
round or potentially even the second if any of those guys falls out. Honestly, I'm really hoping that they go either offensive line, quarterback, 1, 2, or vice versa. I think that's my envisioned draft right there. But there's some there's some decent guys available. There's like Bradbury, who had a rejuvenating year on the Eagles. Um, yeah, we'll see what they end up honestly doing. But But instead of getting one of those like retreads or one of those guys that probably have to pay top dollar for, again, like you're gonna have to pick and choose which you're gonna address to free agency and hopefully how you're gonna address to get some guys starting on your defense immediately for the draft. So I think I'd rather stick with like some type of middle linebacker or off ball or outside linebacker through free agency, and then any of those guys through the draft. But there's quite a few of them. Yeah,
I think you and I are in sync with what the draft strategy should be. I'm talking like Joe Biden right now, stuttering over my words. And it's the same thing like you mentioned. This draft has a ton of corners in it. So if you go first round, second round, even into the third round, these some players are going to fall. There's going to be value. There's a chance, and I would love it if we got 2 corners in this draft, someone to develop.
Sure.
We know we've got Fuller, although for next season, and Benjamin St-Juste. Although I have heard that after next season, Fuller's contract is a lot more cuttable, and you wouldn't have as much of a dead cap. So I think you're drafting someone with the idea in 2024 it could be St-Juste and this rookie. But more importantly, I'm drafting because Benjamin St-Juste has not played a full season yet. And so in his 2 seasons. So while he showed flashes and he shows potential and ability, he doesn't show availability.
No, durability is not there for him. Agreed.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a big problem for me. It's the most important. So I think we need to have somebody. So if he goes down or when he goes down, we're not trotting Danny Johnson out there to play at starting. We do. And now I would say I want to re-sign Danny Johnson to be the number 4 like he was. And you've got Christian Holmes in his second season. I think that's someone to develop, but I'm also okay with drafting 2 corners, as I mentioned, just to put some competition. At safety, I think they're kind of set at safety. Although I believe Bobby McCain might be a free agent. I'm not sure if I'm accurate on that. Fact check me on that.
McCain?
Yeah. Did he sign a 1-year deal last year, or did he sign?
No. He's not a free agent this year. Bobby McCain's still on there. Yeah.
Then there really is no need at safety for us to do.
I think they played pretty well last year. I thought Forrest and Reeves and Butler did a decent job filling in.
Well, I think the goal would be for Butler to have the type of ascension that Forrest did this year, where he went from a special teams player to a standout on the field that played pretty good. Like you said, they kind of had played pretty well. So I think we're good there. Draft a corner high. Mm-hmm. That's an impact player, potential starter.
Yep.
Because that's a big need.
Absolutely.
All righty. So we got through the defense. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get into how we're going to improve the offense.
All right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is.
All right. We're back, Jack. I do thank you for coming on and chatting this up. We just had a chance to go through our defensive players and how we would improve this roster. Now comes the offense, and we kind of saved the best for last, going through what really needs a lot of improvement, which is a surprise because I don't know. I just felt like our offense was not going to be the problem this past year. I mean, I thought Carson Wentz was going to put up numbers, and it was a huge clunker.
Dude, you and EB, the only 2 guys that I know that would just defend Wentz till the end. It's just no.
There was always a chance he might get that magic though. Once the magic comes back.
Don't you remember when he took him to the playoffs that one year? The guy's going to show up eventually. He's just going to show up, but no.
How did he go from 27-7 with the Colts to just absolutely atrocious with us this year? I don't understand it.
I don't know, man. I think they had a better line and a better run game. I think it took a lot of pressure off of him, and then So it's tough to say. Maybe it's the system. Honestly, I did not watch a lot of Colts games 2 years ago, so I can't really give an honest opinion of how the offense differs from that year to this year. But
sure.
But that decision making, man, it's just some of those plays, I just don't get it.
I think it was if you look at the pie chart of who's to blame. I mean, I think Wentz held on to the ball too long at times. I think there were play calls that were trying to utilize his arm, his ability to throw deep, so they were too long in development. developing. And I think our offensive line couldn't pass protect worth a darn. It was just this combo of just all falling apart. And nobody made enough adjustments, whether it was the quarterback, whether it was the play calling, whether it was the offensive line improving. There were no adjustments made. Like, I just couldn't believe in that Browns game that wasn't the quick game that would make him look good.
I think that was finally the game where you realized that Wentz is not the answer after the third pick? The third interception.
The second one was pretty bad too.
Yeah.
I mean, they all were bad. They all were bad.
I luckily didn't watch any of that game. I was out in KC watching my Chiefs do
just chopping on out there.
Keep chopping, man.
Yeah.
Keep on chopping. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk quarterback then. Let's just go straight into it. So today, Ron Rivera announced that Sam Howell would be in the running to be QB1 next year.
Yes. I did actually hear that announcement, and it was him basically saying he's the starter. Because at this point, like, who else are they going to bring in to challenge him? Like, at this point, like, you're probably going to bring in some journeyman quarterbacks, some backup, like, I don't see them bringing in like a Jimmy G or a Teddy Bridgewater or a Sam Darnold or something like that. Why would you spend all that money on Baker Mayfield when he's, basically been terrible on 3 teams now? So it's just, I think you're going to stick with Sam Howell. Again, bring in somebody way down the chart, like a Drew Lock or or maybe re-sign Taylor Heineke or something like that. But that at this point, like, if you really want to transition to Sam Howell, you can't bring Heineke back because anytime that Howell has any type of mistake, fans are gonna start screaming for Heineke. It's just not gonna work. So
right.
As much as I love the guy, they're probably gonna have to let him go. Maybe bring in Brett Rippon. Yeah.
Can he wear number 11?
Yeah. That'd be amazing. But I kind of forgot about this, like, from last year, about, the whole, everyone gets all spun up on quarterbacks every single year, like, especially going into the draft. Like, they always project all these guys to go in, like, the top 10. Like, I forgot about, like, the Matt Corral, like Malik Willis, like, these guys are going to come take the league by storm and blah, 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 blah. And it's all the, the hype from the media and everything along those lines. And the draft day comes. And then they drop. They drop to, like, the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Like, at one point in time, I think Sam Howell was, like, considered one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. He drops to the 5th round. So it's just, so in my opinion, what you can do is just, sit back, see what happens with the draft, and you can probably nab one of these guys in the 4th round, and then just, see what you can develop, see what you can do. So that's my opinion, at least, because again, with the cap space that they have and trying to improve upon positions of need, like, and unless you're going to somehow, trade all of your picks for Lamar Jackson or something along those lines, like, there's no point of, going from one of these other middle ground quarterbacks that might get you, to 8-8 or something like that, or, middle of the pack. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. But we'll see closer to draft time, like once things start looking. But I kind of like Richardson out of Florida, not in the 1st round, but again, if he can drop, if he ends up dropping to the 3rd or 4th round, like, I think he might, because I don't think he has the ball skills to start. Like, sure, take a flyer on him in the 3rd or 4th round and throw him on your roster, maybe develop him for a year or two and see if he turns into anything. Sure, but again, maybe wasting a 3rd round pick on that might be a little bit high. But 4th, 5th, 6th round, just again, just play the room, see who falls. Don't spend a lot of money. We could be in a Mahomes position. Sam Howell comes out there, plays like Mahomes. We got him in this rookie contract. Yeah.
Well, I think you're hitting, the nail on the head on the strategy there, where, trying to go like the Eagles, where they're paying Jalen Hurts and he turned out to be better than what they expected, but they knew he could at least be serviceable and they could build around him and he could be decent.
He was a 2nd round pick, right? Yeah.
He was. Yeah. So it is the right strategy. I do struggle, though. So you said it earlier when we were talking about Ron, and this is a lame duck year. I have a hard time believing that Ron Rivera is going to go into a year where if he has a new owner and he has to prove himself and win, he's going to trot out a 5th round pick to be his starting quarterback. So I will say this, like, all I'm going to say is if Derek Carr gets cut, I don't know how they can work it out with the cap, but I wouldn't be upset if they were to find a way to do it and make a play for Derek Carr.
All right, get ready for another 7-win, 8-win season. I guess it's just.
I think you were mistaken with 10, 11, and 12 wins, but yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think in reality that's like hey man, how are they really going to go in? But I think we are going to go into a season where, or if we go into a season where Sam Howell has a legit opportunity to be the starter, I think you're right to talk about what are we going to do, for him. I think we need to bring in a veteran. I think we need to be bringing in someone who can tutor him a little bit, like an Andy Dalton would be a huge home run type guy, so that if Howell gets injured, he can come in for a little bit. Sure. I could see us going after a Jimmy G. The fact that his value has kind of dropped with the 49ers, I think, this past year because they didn't play that great with them.
How much would they have to pay him though? I think he'd be at least a $12 to $14 million quarterback.
Well, see, so when it comes to these vets, it's so hard to know what the market's going to be. That's a great point. Last year at this time, everyone was saying Mitch Trubisky was going to get $20 million a year to be somebody's starter.
Yeah,
he didn't get that. And for the first time, the backup quarterback got backup quarterback, money, or your stopgap quarterbacks, your Marcus Mariotas that signed for maybe $8 million, your Trubisky's who got maybe $12 million. It was not a bloated contract. Sure. However, we have to get a veteran, or I'm even going to say we need to get two veterans. If you get like a Andy Dalton and a Nick Mullins, someone who can be a third round or your third quarterback on the depth chart. But if people get hurt, he can play, because there were over 60 quarterbacks that started this past year. Oh, and in Washington, we have started 3 quarterbacks since we were the Redskins, since we wore this logo. So if we go into it thinking, you got Sam Howell, you pick up Sam Darnold to be his backup and compete with him in the training camp, that's not enough, because Jake Fromm is the next guy on the roster, and that's not doing it for me. No. So I think we need to be allocating what could be up to $10 million on 2 players to be in there. So I think it's going to take a little bit of a chunk of the your available salary cap to make sure you've got someone that can push Sam, make him compete to be better, and but also 2, teach him a little bit of what they see out there. Because the last thing we really need is a rookie quarterback. And I'm calling Sam a rookie because it's his first time starting a full time. But without someone there that can really talk to him about, that's been there, been like, this is what we need to be looking at.
No, and that's a good point. Like, you could definitely go to the bargain bin and get a guy like, Jacoby Brissett, like, CJ Beathard or something like that, and pay him, combined maybe $8-9 million a year to kind of fill that gap, just in case you have to go with your contingency plan.
Yeah.
But ultimately, though, I hate to say it, but if either one of those guys are probably starting, you're like
it's not good.
You're going to be sitting there at, again, 7 or 8 wins, and so at the best. So it's just
right.
I don't know. I just really hope they hit with Sam Howell. I really hope that that they finally got it right, and they're developing this guy, and we're getting this basically sit for a year, and learn from the ultimate mentor Carson Wentz, that he can go out there and really make a difference. So I actually heard that Wentz was actually mentoring the guy. He was actually taking the time to try to coach him up in addition to Heineke. So
are you advocating for keeping Carson Wentz? Is that what I'm hearing? Because that's what I'm hearing.
For $3 million, yes.
and my gosh, the fans at DC would be furious if Howell gets hurt and Carson Wentz comes trotting out.
Get him back out there. 2 for 6 with 3 picks.
Well, I mean, let's think about it. Let's be honest. I mean, a guy like Taylor Heineke has won 7, 8 games. 2 years in a row. How it doesn't take Howell to be a whole lot to reach that bar. Like, our bar can be pretty low on what we need from a quarterback. And if you get a little bit of decent play, the way Heineke did it, he made us competitive. If he's got, Howell's got a little bit of a stronger arm, there's a chance we could win 8-9 games. There's a chance we could sneak up on people.
You never know. There's a lot of free agents in the NFC East this year. So, we don't know what's going to happen with, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Even the Giants. Watch Daniel Jones walk or something like that. Who knows? Anything's possible.
Right.
But that's
or they just get hit with schedules change,
Sure.
injuries change, free agency, that type of stuff. Because you're right,
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. Like at least that's the one thing I do like about the NFL. It's so hard to predict in that sense. So like you never know how you're going to be from year to year in that regard. But again, like middle of the pack teams like the Commanders, like they're a couple pieces away, I think, from making a wild card berth, maybe making a little bit of a playoff run. Like they're not that far off, but it's just. It's hard to take that next step unless you like. This is like the crucial moments, like when you spend your money in free agency wisely and draft guys that actually can produce. And I hate to say it, but what was it? How many Pro Bowlers has Ron drafted?
None.
Yeah.
None. No, you're right. The Commanders are that middle of the road team that is just missing a couple pieces. The problem is, one of those pieces is the most important position in the game.
Yeah, and the hardest position to play in all sports, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a major asterisk there that we got to fix.
It's easy to fill that hole there.
Sure.
So,
yeah. All right, so let's move on. We got the consensus is we're not going to spend a lot of money. Although I'm putting it out in the universe. If Derek Carr becomes a free agency, I'm looking his way. But the idea is we'll probably not be spending a lot of money at quarterback, but we do need to bring in someone who is capable should something happen to Sam Howell. So let's go running back. I'm going to take this one. And I think this can kind of be a quick little actually, the next two positions I think are going to be quick segments. I don't think we need to do a whole lot at running back. The one thing I might do, and you kind of assess how he's doing from an injury perspective, is letting J.D. McKissic go. And saving a little bit of money, not much. I think you might get $2 million of the savings, but that could go towards something else. Sure. That another player, or that's $2 million of extra space that you could put towards if you sign someone in another position, an Edmonds or something like that. That gives you that flexibility. And I just do it because there's just not enough. There's not a ball to go around to everybody, and Curtis Samuel can do some of the same things. I love J.D. McKissic. He's a good locker room guy. He's our best pass protector, but the offense is shifting to Brian Robinson as running back one, Antonio Gibson spelling him, and there's not a need for a third down specialist.
No, and I was surprised that they didn't use Gibson more in that role last year. So like we'll see what they end up doing, and if they need to bring in another guy, like I was looking through the the charts here, you can bring in some guys on the cheap. Like you
draft somebody.
Yeah, you can draft somebody like Samaje Perine. Like I'd love to have him back. Not love to have him back, but if they're stuck in that year, you can get these guys for like $1 million, like 1.6 around there. So you're not going to break the bank.
Well, I think you're looking at a running back in the 4th through 6th rounds. I mean, the Falcons got Tyler Algier, I think, in the 4th or 5th round. You're looking at something like that where. It was mentioned earlier. Sean said Chris Rodriguez Jr. from Kentucky, and Anthony Handy was one of the guys who he watched a lot of SEC football. It's like I think you need to get someone in the mold of Brian Robinson. Mm-hmm. You need to have someone who can take some hits and take a pounding so that you have that replacement, so the offense doesn't change its style if he were to get nicked up, because Robinson admitted at the end of the season he was pretty banged up, through his rookie season. So and if he's going to be a feature player, it'd be good to have someone who can spell him. But yeah, I mean, we don't need to be spending any money at this position. If you're going to draft someone, do it late.
No, and I remember seeing what was the guy's name, like TCU, like Kendry Miller or something like that. 6 foot 220, something along those lines again. But he's like ranked like the 200th like prospect in the draft or something like that. Or these guys like way down there. Somebody agreed, because Robertson just couldn't. Robinson just couldn't hold up. So it's just
right. And as tempting as the guy who flashed in the Senior Bowl from Tulane, the running back Spears, that's just not a need for us. It would just I don't want to see him go to Philly, who's going to be needing some running backs, but it's just he's just not a need. No,
Philly's going to be stupid and draft Bijan Robinson out of Texas with that
go for
pick. Yeah, have fun with that.
All right, so let's move on to wide receiver. I'll let you take this one here. I'm sure it's going to be a quick segment.
There's nothing to talk about there. Like you've invested so much money in the wide receiving position. I just, it blows my mind that they still want to go to like a run first offense, and that's fine. But it's just like I don't know. But from a depth perception, perspective, I don't think you're really losing anybody. Looks like the only guy you're really losing is maybe potentially Cam Sims.
Right.
But how often did he play? So again, like I'm sure we're gonna say you can pick up a guy later in the rounds. Like you can probably get it like an undrafted free agent and just bring him on at that point, and just bring in some depth guys. You can probably sign guys off other people's practice squads later in the season. Like there's so many options at that point that I don't think you should prioritize this one bit. But
right, I'm with you here. I mean, I do want to see. I would like for us to get a taller, bigger receiver in the kind of mold that Cam Sims is. I should say he is. But I'm at the point with Cam Sims where every year he flashes in preseason and makes the roster, and the season happens and nothing. There's very little production from him, and so I'm good with moving on from him. I would, like Sean hit on it earlier about a kick returner. So I think through the draft, and you could look for something like that who could bring some electricity, to the, to those returns. So it's not just Gibson, not milling back there on punt return. So I think that's something we could target. But to like what you said, this isn't something we're looking at early. And wide receivers every year fall and drop, and you can get talent.
And they'll get cut. Like they'll get cut from rosters. You can probably pick a guy up. Like it's just look for those other teams that have like a plethora of like good receivers. They'll probably let somebody decent go. And so it's just by no means waste money on this position. And I was looking through some of the earlier today, looking through like some of the some of the stats or some of the specs of some of these guys, and like again, like you got big receivers coming out. A lot of guys 6'3", 6'2", like 200 pounds, something along those lines. Good possession guys that can probably fill that role that Cam Sims has. But
be a red zone threat, be a first down threat.
Absolutely,
I'm with you. I'm with you there. All right, so let's move on to tight end. There's been some chatter. I mentioned it earlier about is Logan Thomas, on the chopping block. If you need to create cap room, if you're going to sign Derek Carr, and now you need some cap room. Could Logan Thomas be on that? And they do like Armani Rogers. They like Cole Turner. They like John Bates as a blocker. What are your thoughts here on tight end? What do you think we should be looking at doing?
I like what we got. Like again, I want to take it. I'd take another chance on Logan Thomas. Like I think that he had proved himself a couple of years ago, and again with that type of major knee injury, I think that. I just don't think he was the same player last year, or maybe Scott Turner was going away from that play, or maybe Wentz just doesn't like to check down to the tight end or look for the tight end. I don't know, but again, like to have that type of drop in production from that year, from year to year like that, it's clearly something's off. Like whether it's the play call, like I said, or injury. So. I kind of like our tight end room, like in that regard. I think we got some good guys, and so like regardless of that, like I was looking at the draft, and like you either have like it's a big drop off, like there's like the top 5 guys, and then after that, like it's just just some dudes that like you're probably going to be sitting on your bench for a couple of years, or maybe playing special teams. Like I have no idea.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you. I think I'm with you on all of that. I think we need to give Logan Thomas another season of recovering from that knee injury. Another guy that they said they liked in the preseason, and he got injured, and maybe they did the old Joe Gibbs stash for the season, was Curtis Hodges. He's 6'8", and he was really flashing in training camp, and then he didn't make didn't make the roster. Was on the practice squad. Was always kind of injured. I'm with you. We got some pieces that you got to see some of these guys develop because they're cheap. I mean, we drafted Cole Turner in the 5th round last year, and he showed nothing last year. And so you got to think, what happened there, and is there more there than what was being shown? The only way that I would say potentially we could improve the tight end is if we were to essentially spend all of our free agent money elsewhere. And you beef up all your offensive line, so you don't need an offensive lineman early. And then that would be a luxury that if you were to cut a Logan Thomas, then say, hey, okay, in the first round, second round, we're looking at a Luke Musgrave, like you mentioned. Some type of tight end that could be impactful. Then that could be an option, but I'm not seeing it. The one guy that I thought is a free agency that would not cost a lot of money is Hayden Hurst, and he can kind of do a little bit of both.
I was looking
but again,
at that.
I'm just wondering if you're just changing, if it's one position for another.
1A for one or 1B at that point.
Exactly.
I don't think you're going to see much of a massive improvement. There's some mid pack rookie or guys coming out like this year. Like what was one of the, I think it was like Sam Laporta. They were talking up from the Senior Bowl out of Iowa.
Yeah.
Didn't play a major role, but good blocker, potentially good size. Like he can play, but I think he's just going to get lost in the depth charts, and I honestly think that Logan Thomas will beat most of these guys out unless you spend like a first or second round pick on one of these premier tight ends, like the guy from Notre Dame or that guy from Georgia. So it's just
right, that's a luxury to us, right now. Very much a luxury. Like I said, unless we somehow are able to fix all of our offensive line issues through free agency, which is not going to happen.
No.
So let's get into it. We talked about the biggest move is what happens to Daron Payne. Now that the most important position that we have to improve to fix our team, to fix that rookie quarterback and Sam Howell is going to be offensive line. So I'm going to let you start it. What are you doing? What are your thoughts?
All right. So back to the draft. Like you got quality linemen and you got quality corners. So again, say that we go with so we end up going first round corner or something along those lines, or maybe we go free agency before that. And so if that's the case, then there's a bunch of guys available. Like the offensive lineman's deep free agency class. I think Caleb McGarry, he's a 2019 first round pick, a career year last year. Good on the run, good on the pass.
Yeah.
I think he'd cost you about $13 million.
Right.
Dalton Risner, guard, probably cost you about $7 million, something around there. So again, I'm thinking you go spend big for a middle linebacker, and then you could plug one of these offensive linemen in, and then draft a corner, then maybe even draft an offensive lineman later. They can just really beef up those positions of need. There's a lot of guys in the draft, like Osiris Torrance out of Florida. Apparently he blew everybody away in the Senior Bowl, looking good. Andrew Voorhees out of USC.
Luke Weichler out of Ohio State. Sorry, I'm jumping in. This is your part.
Big dude. No, you're fine. Yeah, again, you got 12, 10 guys that are considered top 100 prospects just on the offensive line this year. And so it's just, I really think he got a shot on at least one of those guys, and definitely one of the top 10 corners. And so, just I think there's a lot of opportunity they can really improve the offensive line, and then maybe even go after one of these higher end tackles, or draft a tackle and move what's the guy's name out of Texas?
Sam Cosmi.
Sam Cosmi. Yeah, move him to guard. I think this is the year that they can really reshape that line. Get it looking how it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago when Sheriff was still here, and just have it be one of the more strengths of our team.
Yeah. And I think you said it perfectly. I'm with you on the draft strategy. You're right. You and I are in sync on that. And the idea where this is a position group where you're going to need to address in free agency and in the draft, because we need at a minimum 2 new guards next year. And we need to improve 2, if not 3 positions. I'm with you too. Where we talked about an interior lineman needs to be brought in, whether that's through the draft or free agency. I think we need to figure out what we're doing with Sam Cosmi. Pick a position at this point is what I'm going to say. He's a young guy. He needs to be honing his craft. You're going to leave him at right tackle and let him focus on it, or are you going to bring him in to right guard? My concern with Sam Cosmi is he is injury prone.
Oh
He
man.
gets nicked up, and he too has not played a full season in his 2 years. Whereas the other guy that's coming back, and this is where the part where Ron and Martin gave some inclination of their thoughts, they said they want to get younger at center. And Chase Roulier could be a cap casualty, but you're not going to save a lot. He's currently set to cost $12 million on the cap. If you cut him, you save $4 million. So it's going to be an $8 million dead cap. But I mean, that still is $4 million that you could put towards someone, but that's not a whole lot of savings. And I don't feel like Chase Roulier is injury prone. He's had a broken ankle and then I think a torn ACL. And they happen because he's gotten rolled up on. I think that's a lot different than Sam Cosmi nicking his shoulder, nicking his hand, breaking his finger.
Yeah, getting those the nick up injuries where it's always going to be something. The major injuries are a little bit are concerning, but less concerning. Like maybe Sam Cosmi's soft. Maybe he can't play.
Exactly.
It's tough to say. And I was checking the free agents and you're correct about center. Tyler Larson's out, Nick Martin's out. Like those are the two backups they have. So there's nobody else.
No.
So at this point, besides Chase Roulier. So there's some pretty decent guys available in a free agency, but after the top four, it just kind of drops off. Where
I feel like we've got too many positions to be spending money on a free agent center.
Yeah.
I feel like this is where we need to be. If you get two guards, this is where you go get that guy Schmitz from Minnesota. Which is crazy to pick a center in your first round pick, but he could anchor your line and be your Jason Kelsey for the next next 10 seasons.
Sure.
But I think we need to be doing, like you said, a combo of draft picks and some free agencies. I am worried about building more depth. I don't think Charles Leno had the best season, but right now I think you can't cut everyone because I don't think we can sign 5 new players. So you gotta work with what you got. But we also got to remember that we have Chris Paul's on the roster. He was a 7th round pick last year. He started against Dallas. I don't think we want to go into the season penciling him in to be your starting guard. I don't think that's a smart decision.
That's not setting yourself up there. No.
But I think he's someone to develop. I wouldn't even mind, there is a cap casualty that could be Andrew Norwell, but I kind of feel like he may be someone you want to keep around as your backup because Wes Schweitzer is a free agent and he's been great. He can play center, he can play guard and play it pretty well. But I think you can't be, like you said, you can't be spending money too much on the depth there. You need to be using it as you're spending money on a starter and then drafting, some guys. So even if we draft a tackle, if our draft is cornerback, tackle, guard in the first 3 rounds in some order, I think we're doing things right.
I think that's exactly right. I think you're really setting yourself up to fill those holes at a lower salary and just then you can spend on some of those bigger free agents of other positions of need, specifically on the defense. And so
exactly.
Yeah, and again, there's a couple guys in free agency on the center side that I think you could bring in. One guy I was looking at was Ethan Pokeek out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
He's actually rated one of the top rated centers in the league this year. And then apparently you can get him for hopefully around maybe he'll get paid after this. Who knows? But maybe $2 million, something around there. Nothing that's
for a starter.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take that.
That's what he got paid last year. 1.1 and 1.1 mil supposedly is what he made last year. But it sounds like he's probably going to cash in somewhere else.
Right.
So yeah, it's tough to say how you're going to kind of shuffle that up. But like you mentioned, guard, tackle, and I think things will kind of work themselves out at center. Just bring in a later round pick or maybe a guy off somebody else's roster in free agency.
Yeah. There is a guy in free agency that if we were to cut Roulier. I love the dude from Minnesota. He's a NC State Wolfpack, Bradbury. Yeah. I would love to bring him in. You're right. But again, it's is that enough? Do we need to be paying a center right now? Or do we need to be paying stuff around if we've got Chase Roulier on contract?
Yeah, he should be your starter. So
right.
at this point, I think you kind of just roll with him and then just have a contingency plan at some point of who else you can bring in at that position. But
Yeah,
it might
absolutely.
you're probably going to take a dent in production, but just
Sure.
rolling the
Sure.
dice. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our deep dive on the offseason roster. Again, it's in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start hearing some things because there's a deadline in late February for a franchise tag. So we're going to get an idea of what happens with Payne and what goes on there. Derek Carr is going to be looking into where does he go, whether it's a trade or if he gets cut and gets to be a free agent and select his own team. That's going to be coming here in February. So, I'm glad we were able to kind of really take a deep dive and look at what the opportunities are. I mean, it seems like we're very much on a consensus where there's, spend a little bit here on the line, spend a little bit here at linebacker, and then kind of let the draft fill in all the pieces there, which, I mean, honestly, would be the right way to build this roster up.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. More importantly, though, you okay with Joey Sly starting a kicker this year or next year?
Oh, I am. He's on the roster. I am. I think I don't know what else we would get. Yeah,
nobody
for
else.
Right now I am. Yeah.
No.
I didn't bring up kicker because he's on contract. So
no paying for Robbie Gould. No.
They can go get Chad Ryland from Maryland to be a training camp competition with them. I'd be okay with that. Undrafted training camp invitee.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with seeing.
And actually, in all honesty, I do think what we should be bringing, one of our 90 players should be a second kicker to not just push Sly, but also give him a break from not doing all the kicking duties.
Yeah. Near the end of the year, there, I think he kind of broke down a little bit. Like he just missing extra points, missing like mid-range field goals, which I was kind of surprised at. But yeah.
I don't think he's the best, but I think there's a lot of kicker issues throughout the league.
Oh, no doubt. Well, they get cut by the Washington team and then go off and be highly successful somewhere else.
Especially when they go to Pittsburgh. Sean Sweeten went to Pittsburgh and did really well.
Oh, man.
Your Graham Gano goes to Carolina and plays really well.
Kills it. He was the guy that went down to the Chargers. I forget.
Dustin Hopkins.
Hopkins was there.
He was doing pretty decent and he got hurt.
I
think he got passed over because he got hurt.
Dicker the kicker is there now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. No. Honestly, I think that, again, the Commanders are in a pretty good spot to be able to upgrade their roster and hopefully take that step next season. Like,
right.
I will be very pleasantly surprised if they can, make it over that hump. I would be so happy just going into new ownership with a team that's looking promising to, potentially make the next step in the next couple of years. And again, a lot of this revolves around getting Sam Howell protection and then really seeing what you got with him in the first 6 to 8 games of next season.
Right. I'm with you. With you. I think, there's a lot of, now I'm going to ask you one question that's off script here.
Okay.
If we have a new owner in 2023, are you okay with a new name in 2024?
God, yeah. Anything but the Commanders. Anything. I will take anything.
But Ron Rivera just won the Salute to Service Award, so they're embracing this military theme.
I'm so tired of Ron. Just get them all out of here. Let's get them all out of here. I'm ready to hit the reset button so bad. I think he's great with the players. I think he's a good dude. Yeah. But when it comes to thinking outside the box and coming up with great names and stuff like they come up with, I think that, and just the way that they handled the whole thing, it made me hate it even more. It was just like the way that clown show over and out in Ashburn just handled the whole rollout of all this. Sort of like, oh no, it's not the Commanders. That's crazy. Yeah, it's the Commanders. Like it's just it's so ridiculous. But honestly, I think I probably would have hated any name that they put out. Just because of the ownership. Just because of the ownership. Like it's such a show every single time. So, but honestly, I can't think of better names. Like I still like the Red Wolves. I liked a lot of the names that they came up with. Like the Red Wolves. I don't know about the Red Tails. J.P. Finley's Juggernauts. There's a bunch of different names that I probably would have taken. Go Jugs? No. Oh,
no,
come on.
No.
The
I know. I'm with you. Where it would be exhausting to go through another name change, but the reality is the fans have not gravitated to Commanders. And I think you're right. A lot of that is it's still with the same owner. And, and honestly, I would say this. I don't think they need to immediately be looking into changing the name, in 2024, like I asked you. But
Sure.
I would say, they could look into new stadium, new name. It's, we're 3-4 years down the road. And
Sure.
like you said, you're giving someone else a better chance to roll this out in a more professional manner,
Yes.
the way they did. And it is exhausting to have to go through another name change. But, the only thing I wanted from Commanders was to hear hail to the Commanders, just like hail to the Redskins. And they botched that. So unless they fix those lyrics and the beat of it, you've lost me with that to where I don't care. So you can go ahead. So I would rather than be the Hogs or the Red Bulls. And the Hogs
Else.
would tie into our past, and I'd be much happier with that.
Anything else. But yeah, fresh start. And honestly, winning fixes everything. So if they go out there and make the playoffs next year, I'm all about it. Keep the Commanders. I don't care. But like it's just, yeah, like get fresh start. Get a new ownership in here. Like get some new winning ways in here. New stadium. Like just get us excited again about something.
Right.
That's the fan base is dwindling. You saw it in the games this year, the home games. There's nobody there. Like it's just. Somehow.
And they did a better job this past year of getting more fans and season tickets. I think the biggest problem with Commanders is there's no way to shorten it. There's no way. Like people at the end, and I'm one of them, started gravitating to calling them the Hogs.
Yeah.
Hogs quarterback, because there's just no way to shorten Commanders and make it easier. So you say all this stuff, the Washington Commanders. It takes forever. I do though wonder, like you said, if you start winning and say they become a legitimate franchise that wins, 10 years from now, are we just like we don't bat an eye over a Charger, a Packer, a Steeler, a Bill, like we don't bat an eye over some of these team names, a Brown, will it just roll off your tongue because you don't care because it's about winning?
Exactly.
Would we actually enjoy the W that you've got, on your shirt there and be like, yeah, it looks good.
You'll build that winning heritage, and that's what we've been starved for so long. Like that just is not anything that exists anymore. Like you got to build that heritage from the ground, and like once you can do that and start those winning ways, and people will hop on board. The stadium would become electric again. People will want to show up. People will be proud of the name, and this. And again, unfortunately, it's not just the team not winning. It's the ownership and their mishandling of basically everything. And so it's just again, like the Sean Taylor memorabilia, the Sonny Jurgensen thing. Like it's just they just can't get anything right. It's just it just blows my mind. But yeah, just win, please. That'll fix it all. Uh-oh. Your South Carolina internet's kicking in there again.
Just win, baby, just like Al Davis says.
That's right. You need to go reboot your router.
Yeah, give me a second. It will reset. I'm probably going to have to do that. Well, Jack, I very much appreciate you coming on today. I appreciate you chatting me over with this, and we get a chance to actually do this on the show as opposed to just as we talk on Fridays on my way home from work.
You're much nicer to me on this show. You're much nicer and accepting of my answer on this show. You don't yell at me. This is nice. This is real nice. And honestly,
we're in public. I have to be.
I know. But no, it's shame that Sean got sucked into the real world here instead of living in fantasy world. But
I know he missed out on a good one, a good topic.
He did. But no, anytime you guys want me on, I'll run it by my wife and make sure it's all right. So
right,
I do need to work on some more flattering light though. I'm looking really pasty here. You got like that nice South Carolina tan going on, like you've been playing golf, and I'm looking like I haven't been outside.
I got those UV rays today outside. It looked good.
That vitamin D. Good for you, man. Well. Good for you.
That's right. Well, with that, I'm gonna cut this off and let us get to bed. And we appreciate the folks that did tune in. And when you're catching us later on, we're posting it on YouTube page. We very much appreciate. Please like, please subscribe, please comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you agree with us or not. For Will Kramer, it's Jack Neidermeyer. This is another edition of Washington Football Weekly. Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is.